Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Switch build of Persona 5 Royal, and we're getting straight into this one, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. If you are thinking about grabbing this or anything else from the eShop, then consider using cornershop.gg for discounted instant delivery email eShop credit. You'll be getting 10% off at checkout using code CORNER. To preface today's video then, it is a performance review. At this time I'm 10 hours into the experience. I've just overcome the first palace. A full in-depth review will follow at a later date. With 10 hours of gameplay though, I do want to give an overview of the story, gameplay, graphics, the performance this far, so think frame rate, and then we'll also be breaking down how it compares in docked to handheld. I also, for those that may not know, break down what the Royal Edition is in the name, so how does it differ to that original release. My experience with this particular game then, I played both the original build and the Royal Edition on the PlayStation back at release, and I'm going to put it up front, the game is a masterpiece, one of the best JRPGs out there. It's also packing well over 100 hours of content. Simply put, this game, it is a 10 out of 10. Story then, and Persona 5 Royal, its narrative is told through a series of cutscenes that show you being interrogated by police. You end up in this predicament because basically the opening of the game, it is a heist that goes wrong as you are traversing a casino. From here though, we unpack the story and really where all of this began. It's a conflict in our hometown. So basically our young protagonist, who we can name, he witnesses a man harassing and forcing himself on a woman, and he runs in to defend her. It turns out though this man has power and you end up the bad guy. This actually leads to a transfer to a new city and a new school. In our new home though, we stay with a gent by the name of Sajiro, and you'll reside above the coffee shop he owns, that is LeBlanc. Within the first few hours we meet a couple of friends, so that is Anne and Ryuji, and we uncover an app on our phone which has the ability, it seems, to transfer us to what I would consider almost alternate realities. These are actually the game's palaces, and here we're going to be fighting against evil individuals, and basically it kind of demonstrates what their warped vision is of the world around them. Our guide in this world, that is Morgana, a talking cat who will train you to become a phantom thief, as codename Joker. Alongside that then we'll learn of personas, beings of sorts that fight alongside us, and then we'll start to target specific individuals. The first, it's a teacher who is accused of physical and emotional abuse. These palaces filled with evil from shadows, which essentially they fight on behalf of their master, and it definitely leads into some dark imagery. Persona 5 has incredible storytelling from beginning to end though, and it's heavy on the narrative, but I also want to warn here, based on what I said then, dark imagery. It is an adult game in its themes. By the end of the first palace alone, we've discussed themes of sexual abuse, seen imagery that suggests that, and suicide as well. This is really the ongoing theme though, the ongoing loop. Find evil, take it down, you'll need to steal a treasure that impacts them in the real world. It essentially makes them, I guess, admit their faults. We can essentially make them pay for their crimes. Of course though, along the way there's a ton of twists and turns, there's a huge cast to meet, and yeah, overall just incredibly well done, all of it, and I strongly urge you to take part in this world. Gameplay then, and Persona 5 Royal, it's an incredibly in-depth JRPG that is a spin-off now of Shin Megami Tensei. Gameplay wise, we'll be jumping between two locations. That's going to be the modern day Tokyo, our school life, as well as the alternate reality of sorts, the palaces. In the real world, we play a lead that we name ourselves. In the palace locations, we'll act under the codename of Joker. This is where we're going to be battling the demons. The school and real world, that's really where we will be doing all of our planning as our crew progressively gets larger, and we also have an opportunity here to generally just explore the larger Tokyo thanks to a subway system that is interconnecting smaller individual locations. Here basically we'll be doing this when we're off the clock at school, so think here everything from activities like batting practice to picking up supplies like guns to working on the relationships that we have with the team around us. It's an incredibly well-realized world that packs more than enough things to do that it almost feels impossible to do it all because the school day, it is very real, so we only have these kind of, I guess, brief windows. Before you know it as well, a new evil will then appear and you'll be on a timer of sorts to save someone, and this is represented by a calendar and what is essentially a countdown. I tend to personally focus on building the relationships initially and then stocking up on required items for palace infiltration. You know, at this point early on, you're not the strongest, you may need to grind, so I find that good weaponry and items such as medpacks can carry you a long old way. I pretty much personally brute force my way through the first palace in a couple of days, so I can unlock the other levels just a little bit quicker as those enemies do progress. I've said all of this as well, but we haven't even got to side missions either, but that's mainly because the first 10 hours, it's still teaching you mechanics, and there's going to be upcoming dungeons that do not disappear and they allow you to grind. These are typically requests that you will need to overcome for reward, but they're much more simple and smaller in scale than anything on the main quest line. In palaces then, the dungeons, they are relatively easy to navigate, but I wouldn't call them linear. We often get multiple routes that we can take, and they pack plenty of secrets to uncover as well. As we do explore though, we can see enemies in the world. This is not randomized battle, and the game quickly introduces some minor stealth elements, so basically we can attack from behind for the advantage, or even sneak up on them before we pounce. This sneaking element then, the stealth, it's essentially the ability to cling to cover, and it's surprisingly fun and fast paced. Battles in the early game though, they will be essential. They do not only level up our team, but they additionally allow us to collect items and cash in reward that you will definitely need. The combat though, turn-based, and we have everything here from melee to guns to items to the title personas. These are essentially beings that battle on our behalf and are a part of your personal power. They can also though be enhanced throughout the experience in a few ways by actually leveling them up, for example, in turn gaining new powers, or even collecting multiple personas and then merging them together. This, it's a quick menu action. We'll actually visit a location known as the Velvet Room, which is a prison of sorts that gives us this option. The way we collect these personas though in battle, we can take them down in the sense we can stun them temporarily. Here we get a few options. We can perform an ultra stylish finisher. We could ask for their power, which is a conversation. This means we would now have their spirit or their persona. Additionally though, we can also ask for cash and items, and then we would let them go. The combat though, it's fast paced. I loved constantly evolving my skill set and my persona, and then do expect the game to evolve from beginning to end. The first 10 hours, it is very much the basics. You know, Persona 5, it originally released in 2016, and to this day overall, it still feels incredible. It goes above and beyond what many JRPGs achieve, and you're gonna see that from the opening moments. Frame rate and performance then, and I'm happy to say I've not had any issues within my first 10 hours of gameplay. I've noticed no slowdown on the frame rate front. This is rolling at a steady 30 frames per second, and yeah, the performance of the game as well in general, it's incredibly impressive because this stability for frame rate, it can often come at a cost, but here I've had no crashes and no slow loading and no glitches in the transitions. The reason I say transitions there as well, for those that may not have played Persona 5 before, it has a lot going on that could cause issues. It's warping between very distinctive visual designs. You know, it's constantly cutting from cutscene to gameplay to a fight overview, and all of this here, it is flawless. My favourite visual effect, for example, when you win a battle, the camera adds an animation-like effect and then it rotates and you're back in the gameplay. And here on the Switch, there's barely a stutter. It feels identical to what I remember on the PS4. Graphically then, docked, I'm really impressed. We have compromises, but it never comes at the cost of the incredibly stylish visual world design. Like, sure, there's some pixelation on characters and in-world, but when it comes to the texture work, it seems to be in line with what I wanted to see. Also, of course, we've seen a resolution downgrade here as well, but that was to be expected. The only time I noticed the resolution as well, honestly, it was some of the darker areas of the initial palace. Can make the environment feel just a tiny bit muddy when they get busy. Extremely minor though, I do want to put that in there. Everything else though, it's been spot on. The animated cutscenes look fantastic, text is sharp and clear, the world is stunning, and our characters and our enemies, they pack all of the animations and visual effects that you should expect. Handheld then, it's a slightly different story. It's great still, do not get me wrong, but the resolution drops further and it definitely makes those darker sequences muddy to the point of what I would call noticeable. I'm playing on an OLED and this for me, the locations, I guess they lost a bit of their wow factor. Again though, I'm being picky here and I do want to add at this point, this is currently in the runnings for the best port I've ever seen on the Nintendo Switch. It's just incredible what they've achieved. I just really need to wrap up the entire game now to confirm that, though I will add here it definitely has some stiff competition from the likes of think Alien Isolation, possibly one of the best ports out there. Audio then is, as always with this game, stunning, and I'll keep it quick. The voice acting is pretty prominent throughout. It's not always there, but the cast is in place for any main questline conversations for the most part. They also have small audio snippets that play alongside exploration. That really goes a long way to building the personality of the team around us. Then it's got some decent sound effects as well. To top it all off though, it's one of my favourite video game soundtracks. I own the original game's vinyl, the Royal Edition vinyl, and in fact, I've just recently parted with way too much cash to pick up the Persona 1 through 4 vinyl collection as well. This is something special. It's got everything from the intensity to almost a jazz-like undertone to even more pop-like. It is incredible stuff. Even if you decide not to play the game, definitely go ahead and listen to the soundtrack. When it comes to the Royal Edition then, I wanted to add this because, look, if you've played Royal before and don't care about handheld play, not really sure why you would go ahead and pick this up. For those that only ever played the base game though, potentially, the Royal Edition changes a huge amount and it's going to be absolutely worthy of a revisit. This edition, it packs an additional semester, palace, new confidants, new endings. Yes, the game has multiple. The battle system has changed, such as the impact of status and bullets. There's a new location, new palace areas, the new hangouts, there's challenge battles, there's boss encounters impacted as well. That is just a small sample here. I found a fantastic article from RPG Overload and I urge you to check that out. I put it in the pinned comment down below. And that is Persona 5 Royal. The game, it's incredible as it's always been on the Royal Edition. I was skeptical back in the day when I first heard about it, but it's absolutely the definitive edition and I suggest everyone plays it. You know, from its story to its gameplay, they just got so much right here. I'm actually curious to see now where they go next. How do they improve upon this with Persona 6? That said, the thing many of you will care about is the Nintendo Switch port, and I'm thankful to say today, after 10 hours, if it remains this way, it's one of the best ports on the system. And yeah, that's from its ability to handle the constant transitions to the respectfully short load times. I'm actually quite shocked, honestly. I expected more in the way of compromise. This game though I just love and I'm psyched to finally have it available in handheld. It's a 10 out of 10 game from me, as I said at the beginning. It is long overdue on the system. So let me know in the comments down below, are you impressed with what you're seeing this far, and will you be picking up Persona 5 Royal on the Nintendo Switch? With that then, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.